The twin suns of Virelia hung low on the horizon, casting long copper shadows across the wreckage-strewn battlefield. The clash between the Nephilim warriors and the ruling syndicate forces had ended hours ago, leaving the crimson sands littered with broken metal, shattered armor, and the lifeless forms of those who had dared to resist. Smoke curled in the sky like mourning banners. Among the fallen was a figure unlike any other, a Nephilim warrior, her silver wings torn and blackened with soot. Her gleaming armor was cracked and dented, her once radiant energy now dimming like a dying star. She was one of the last of her kind, a hybrid born of ancient celestial beings and humans, designed for strength, wisdom, and loyalty. And now she was forgotten, abandoned even by those who had once rallied to her war cry. All around her, the scavengers gathered, merchants picking through the remains, syndicate enforcers confirming kills, and deserters eager to distance themselves from the losing side. None dared approach her. To be seen aiding a fallen Nephilim was treason punishable by death. None, except one. A figure darted through the ruins, hunched low under a patched, dust-stained cloak. His name was Cale Voss, a mortal, a nobody. Once a syndicate engineer, now an outcast for speaking out against the oppression the regime brought down on the colonies. He had no weapons, no titles, and no allies. Only a stubborn flame inside that refused to go out, no matter how much the syndicate tried to stamp it out. Cale paused behind a twisted piece of wreckage, his breath ragged. His heart thundered against his ribs as he stared at the fallen warrior. She was immense even in her defeat, over 7 feet tall, her once majestic wings dragging behind her like broken sails. Her face was bruised, but beautiful sharp features, metallic hair streaked with blood. She opened one eye, slitted like a hawk's, and their gazes locked. "Help me," she rasped, her voice a raw whisper that somehow shook Cale to his core. Every instinct screamed at him to run. Helping her meant execution, torture, disappearance. But as Cale looked around at the vultures picking the battlefield clean, he knew he couldn't live with himself if he turned away. He threw back his hood and sprinted toward her. Gasps rose from the scavengers. Some called him a fool. Others simply sneered and turned away. The fallen were the fallen, none worth saving. Cale skidded to a stop beside the warrior, his boots throwing up puffs of red dust. "You're going to get me killed," he muttered, hooking her arm around his shoulders. The weight of her was overwhelming, almost unnatural. She was heavier than any human her size should be, and she groaned softly, her blood sizzling where it hit the sand. "What's your name?" he grunted as he struggled to lift her. "Celery," she whispered, coughing up dark ichor. "Of the last choir. I'm Cale. Hold on, Celery. I'm not leaving you here." Through sheer stubbornness and adrenaline, he dragged her away from the main road toward the crumbled remains of an ancient comms tower. Shots rang out behind them. Some syndicate enforcers had noticed. Laser blasts seared the air, sending chunks of stone exploding around them. Cale threw Celery into a hollow beneath the tower just as a plasma round scorched the ground where they had stood. He rolled in after her, breathing hard, fumbling for the medpack in his belt. Celery watched him with fevered, glassy eyes. "Why?" she managed. "Because someone has to," Cale said grimly, slapping a dermal patch over the worst of her wounds. Outside, syndicate soldiers stalked the battlefield, calling for any survivors to surrender. Cale knew they would search every crevice, every hiding spot. Time was running out. Celery gritted her teeth and pushed herself upright. Her wings twitched weakly, sending sparks flying. "I can help us," she said, her voice steadier now. "But I need something from the wreckage." Cale shook his head. "No way. Going back out there is suicide. Her burning golden eyes fixed on him. Without my regulator core, my body will collapse. I will die within the hour. Kale groaned inwardly. He peered through a crack in the rubble. The wreckage of Solari's ship lay half buried under collapsed debris, a good 30 meters away, and between them and it, at least a dozen armed soldiers. He weighed the odds. Then he tightened his cloak around himself and slipped back into the open. The sands of Verelia were harsh, but Kale moved like a shadow, staying low, avoiding the soldiers' searchlights. His muscles screamed with every movement. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't even a soldier. But desperation and raw will carried him forward. He reached the ruined ship, pried open a melted panel, and dug through the wreckage. Finally, his fingers closed around a crystalline sphere the size of his fist, the regulator core. It pulsed faintly, humming with trapped energy. A shout went up. He had been spotted. Kale cursed and bolted, lasers slicing the air around him. Sand erupted at his heels. He didn't dare look back. His only thought was getting the core to Solari. He tumbled back into the hideout, slamming the core into Solari's outstretched hand. Instantly, the air thrummed with renewed energy. Solari's body stiffened. Her cracked armor began to knit itself back together, and her wings flexed, shivering with silver light. "You're insane," Kale gasped. "And you are brave, mortal," Solari said, rising to her full height. She lifted a hand, and in an instant, a barrier of crackling force sealed the entrance to their hiding place. Soldiers pounded on it uselessly, their weapons sparking harmlessly against the shimmering field. Solari staggered, still weak but standing. "I must get off this world," she said. "The Syndicate has unleashed something far worse than death." Kale's mind reeled. Worse? What could be worse than this? Solari's gaze darkened. The fallen choir, Nephilim turned into abominations, twisted by Syndicate experiments. They seek to erase all free will. Every living being reduced to a vessel for the Syndicate's will. Kale swallowed hard. "And you're the last who can stop them." "I was," Solari said, voice heavy with grief. "Until today." A heavy boom shook the ground, an artillery strike nearby. They had minutes at best. "Come with me," Solari said suddenly. "Help me escape. I swear on the oaths of the choir. I will remember your courage, Kale Voss. I will make sure the stars themselves remember you." Kale hesitated only a second. "Let's go," he said, and for the first time in years, he felt hope flicker inside him. The night was a blur of fire and screams. Kale and Solari tore across the shattered plains, dodging patrols, using every trick Kale knew to evade the Syndicate's death squads. Solari, weakened but recovering, used what remained of her power to shield them when they were spotted, to heal Kale when a stray blast seared his shoulder. At last, they reached an old spaceport buried under the sand, a place Kale remembered from his engineering days. There, half buried under a collapsed hangar, was a ship. Not much more than a rusty freighter, but it still had an engine and a functioning NAV system. While Kale jury-rigged the ignition, Solari fended off waves of pursuing troops, her wings flaring with brilliant light. She fought with a ferocity that seemed to shake the very air, her blade, reformed from her own blood, slicing through the darkness.